In this next segment, I'd like to introduce you to iTree Design. Now, just for a quick recap, iTree Design is a simple online tool that lets you estimate tree benefits of individual or multiple trees at the parcel level. Basically, Design works with a Google Map interface and allows you to see how tree selection, tree size, and placement around your home affects energy use and other benefits. So the general public is the intended audience for iTree Design, and this is what makes design so effective. It allows a homeowner to more fully understand some of the benefits that their trees on their property are providing. In the past, many of the original iTree tools were limited or intended primarily for use at larger scales, such as, say, a city or county or regional analysis. So iTree Design brings the concept of tree benefits to the parcel scale and makes it personal. So that can be very important if you want to encourage residents to become effective stewards and advocates for community trees. Now, although iTree Design is somewhat simple and very accessible, there are some fairly sophisticated features that have been integrated in the most recent release of this tool. For example, it is the only iTree tool which allows you now to forecast future benefits, cumulative benefits over a specified time span, and also it will allow you to estimate past tree benefits up to a point in time. So design can be used to simulate, say, tree planting projects if you want someone to see that as a tree matures, it will provide much more benefits over time. So here again, this can be an effective strategy if you're trying to advocate for proper tree selection, proper planting techniques, site placement, and tree maintenance and future care. So it's a great little tool, and another nice feature is that it also now allows you to print out a report summary. This was something that wasn't available in the last version. One of the things that's really nice about iTree Design is because it doesn't require installing software and it's a simple online tool, that it's really a nice tool for anyone who's new to iTree to first start using the tools and experiment with them, since it doesn't require some of the same steps that some of the desktop applications do, such as working with manuals and installing software and dealing with some of those types of hurdles. So yes, it is for homeowners, but it can be really used by anyone. And so we know that educators are using it, folks in outreach and extension, and really all types of people who are interested in being advocates for the urban forests. It's also being used by landscape architects, designers, planners, and then there are some folks who are working with their energy companies and utilities to use iTree Design in conjunction with tree planting type programs. And we've even seen some tree nurseries who are using it because it's an effective tool if they're trying to sell trees. This is a nice tool to have to show that there are some benefits for homeowners who are interested in planting trees. So it's something that can benefit those other allied industries also. So essentially anyone who is looking to explore benefits and values of trees, this is a nice tool for them to get started with. There are a couple things that you should consider before you use design, and first of all, it does require having an internet connection available. One of the other things is that it tends to work best on desktop web browsers. So Google Chrome, Firefox work really good. Newer versions of Internet Explorer work well also. Now you can actually run iTree Design on a tablet or a smartphone, but it can be very challenging because you're trying to trace a house parcel on a very small screen on a Google map, and it can be somewhat difficult to try to keep that map centered and to try to capture all those points on that small screen. One of the nice features too is that reports can now be printed, saved, and emailed as a PDF file. So that's also a great little feature if you're interested in, say, using design at a garden show or some type of conference where you might have a computer and internet connection available and a small portable printer, and you might have something set up where people can stop by and actually put their address in and then do a scenario and have a printout to take home with them. And it also is possible now to save a project, and you can email that to somebody else and they can open it up in design on their computer, since it's running essentially on a web browser. So we'll take a quick walk through and see how design actually works, and I'll try to point out some of the key features. So what you see here is the itreetools.org home page. From here you can select the Applications tab, and you'll see iTree Design listed underneath there. I'm just going to select Design, and it'll take me to the Design landing page. And this is where you would enter your address, or if you had a previously saved project, you would then select the button below to navigate to that project to load that up again. Typically when you enter an address, it'll come back with this message which asks you to confirm the address. We'll go ahead and do that. You'll then see a Google map showing you the area of interest. And just so you know too, in case you have a rural area, it might not be able to find the exact number or letter address, and you can certainly use intersections of streets to get near a area too if you don't even have an exact address. If you wanted to work with an open field, it'll accept that also. So the house I'm interested in is right here on the corner of Wisconsin and Park Street. And just a little bit of an overview about this interface here. Most of the instructions for design are on these collapsible panels on the left hand side, and you can see when you click on them they expand. There are no manuals, so if you just follow the steps on these panels, you'll usually be able to get through this just fine. On the right side here you have a Google Map interface, and you can use this toggle bar here to zoom in and zoom out so that you can actually get a better view of the house that you're interested in tracing. And if you click and hold with your left mouse button, you get a panning function that allows you then to center that too. So you can slide around here too just by clicking and holding the left mouse button to center that a little bit more. At the top of the screen you'll see different icons that appear at the top of the map here, which allow you to do different functions. In this case here, this is a zoom function, and this is the icon that we use when we want to place a tree. So our first step here is asking us if we're interested in calculating energy effects, and so we would need to then define a structure. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes in this case, and then it asks me to outline the house, and it gives you some instructions here. And what it wants you to do is to drag this icon, and you can see here it's the same icon up here, and when you mouse over it, it has the instructions there also. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this to one of the corners of the house here. And once I drag and let go of that, I then can continue tracing the outer frame of the house. And so I'm just clicking on each intersection. If you happen to mess up, you can go ahead and just hit your delete key and it'll erase out the last point. And when you're finished, you double click and that closes off the parcel boundary. It'll then ask you some information about when the structure was built. This affects the energy efficiency, so you just have three options here. In this particular case, this is an older Victorian house, so I'm going to select pre-1950s. And in some cases, you might have a house that you know of that is not heated, or possibly somebody might be using firewood. You would then uncheck that so that it would not take into consideration that being a heated structure using natural gas. Same thing with air conditioning. So you can really fine-tune this to specific features of a house for energy effects. Now once we have our parcel defined, the next step is just to place some trees around that parcel. So we'll expand that panel. And what you can see here is that you have some drop-down menus that allow you to select tree species from an available list of Midwest tree species. Now, in some cases, you may not find all the trees that you might find in the urban forest, and you have some options, some generic trees such as broadleaf deciduous large, medium, and so forth that you can select in some cases if you can't find the exact specific tree species that you're looking for. So in this case, I'm going to enter an American basswood, which is 24 inches. You then have options for tree condition, excellent, good, fair, and poor. I'll select good. And tree exposure to sunlight. This actually affects growth rates too, so this will adjust trees' growth rates accordingly. So in this case, I'm going to select full sun, but if these trees were tightly packed, or if I had an understory tree, I could then select partial or shaded, and it would adjust the effects accordingly. Once you enter information for your tree, you'll see the preferred planting zone grid appear around your parcel. And what this is showing you is areas where the darkest green is representing those areas where the greatest benefits will be received if you were to plant that specific tree. The yellow areas are showing where there would be less benefits. And you can see as I move my mouse cursor around, the numbers below here change. And so this isn't necessarily just energy effects. You'll see that the energy effects appear here in the lower right. And so kilowatt hours represent savings for electricity, and air, which relates to air conditioning, and therms relate to winter savings for natural gas. So you'll see those values change, and so they're not necessarily the same in some cases as these colors here, because these colors here take into consideration electricity, carbon, air pollution reduction, and stormwater interception. So these are the aggregate of all tree benefits that you see here, and you can see the total savings down at the bottom here. So as I move my cursor around here, you can see some of the differences. And this will change when you change a tree species or the tree size and the location and the proximity to this parcel. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this icon down to the location of this tree here. And it asks me to confirm this tree, and I'll hit OK. And you can see as I mouse over that tree, it provides me with a quick snapshot of that tree and the current savings based on that location that we just placed it on. I'll go ahead and add in a couple other trees around this house. And just so it's a little bit easier sometimes, you can toggle on this tree grid by selecting this icon at the top of the map here, which kind of looks somewhat like a spider web. Sometimes it's easier to work with that off. So I'll just enter 5 trees and I'll proceed after this. But you can see it's fairly simple just to add as many as you'd like. And I could actually even add in these trees here, which might have some effects on this house too, since they somewhat intercept this grid. The other thing you can do is you can actually change some of your trees. So if you happen to make a mistake, or if you're trying to do a planting scenario, all you have to do is expand this tab here on the side, and you can delete out one of the trees, or you can add in another one. You can see here it's kind of helpful too, in that it highlights the tree as you mouse over it with the yellow ring around that tree. So it lets you know which one you're actually pointing at before you delete it. And to collapse that, you just hit this tab again. And it's the same thing with structures. And in this new version of design, you can actually add in structure. So if I was interested, I can add in another structure by grabbing this icon and sliding it around here, and then I would also see how these trees affect this house here. One of the other nice features too is it now also has a crown growth visual simulator. And so if you select this button right here at the bottom, you'll see that it gives you a simulation of crown growth. So we can see here our small red bud is significantly smaller than some of the maples, the oaks, and the basswoods, which are larger trees. This tree down here was somewhat of an intermediate sized tree. I believe it was a 14-inch black walnut, so that one has a lot more potential to grow than some of the more mature trees. You can pause this. This works basically like a recorder. You can advance through it individually or to the end, and to close that off, just X this out in the corner. So let's go to step 3. So as I mentioned earlier, design allows you to forecast tree benefits into the future. So you can select a number from 2 to 99 to look at future benefits if you're interested in seeing how trees will actually provide benefits into some point in time. In this case, I'll just choose 25 years. And then we're ready to calculate our benefits. And depending upon the amount of trees and also your computer, it could take some time because it is doing a number of calculations. If you think it's doing each one of these trees for every year, 25 years, going forward in time and then backward too to when those trees may have theoretically been planted. And then it returns some results. So let's take a look at the benefits page. After design runs through the process of crunching all the numbers, you'll then see these tabs at the top here and along the side. At the top of the page, you'll see tabs that relate to tree benefits. The overall benefits is a good snapshot of all the benefits, and this allows you to see how benefits compare between all the different types of benefits. So we can see here that stormwater with these 5 trees that we planted around that house is the largest benefit. And then winter savings is actually next. You can thumb through. Sometimes the impact is actually more impressive too. So when you think about those 5 trees intercepting over 8,500 gallons of stormwater per year, that's fairly impressive. It'll then give you information about the kilowatt hours saved related to electricity, and then also the therms saved related to lower consumption of heating fuel. The air quality tab will show you information related to how those trees are reducing both gaseous pollutants like ozone, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and also intercepting particulate matter, in this case PM10. And you'll see down here too this AVD, that stands for avoided. And if you recall back when we were talking about tree benefits, some of those secondary benefits that are attributed to less demand at the power generation point is hereby then providing secondary benefits for air quality, so less emissions in this case. So you'll see the avoided value down here also. And then there's also carbon. And so we have annual sequestration, and also here again, carbon dioxide that's avoided being put into the atmosphere because less demand at the power generation plant due to less heating and cooling. So the top tabs give us information about tree benefits. The side tabs provide information about points in time. So this is our current year overall benefits at 2014. And then as we move down, we have future year, and we project it out to 25 years. So this is just in that year, 25 years in the future. It's just showing you the increase in those benefits. And then if we page down to total, it now is showing you the cumulative total of those benefits over that 25-year span. And if you look at some of the other impacts, again going back to the stormwater, we can see here that now over that 25-year span, those trees are really providing some significant benefits. And then we can look at total to date. So this is looking back to when those trees may have been planted to that point where they're at today. The other thing I wanted to mention is that you can also look at each individual tree here. So we can look at our sugar maple and see here that it's providing $3,500 in benefits to date compared with our smaller redbud. So it's just a different way of looking at trees, and this is a nice tool for evaluating or comparing, I should say, smaller trees and larger trees. At the top of the screen you have a couple options here. The start over option will cause you to lose all progress and take you back to the original point of entering in your address. You can return to setup, which will allow you to enter in more trees or change or enter in more structures or delete some of the old structures if you wanted to do that too. So this will bring you back to this point here. And then we have view report. This generates a PDF file of the actual report. So this just summarizes the same information that we were looking at in those tabs. So you can see total projected benefits over the next 25 years, the current year's benefits, future year, and the benefits to date. And we'll just X this out. The other thing too is that you can save these results. So if you select this option here, and you can just change that so it's unique. So that way, if I were starting over again, or if I wanted to email this project to somebody else, I would then just be able to navigate to that file and then relaunch it. Or if I wanted to email that to somebody else, they then can open that on their computer. So it's a nice way of sharing information with other folks too. So that's a quick overview of iTree Design. It's a very simple tool. All the instructions are on the panels. If you ever need help too, and you just select these small question marks here, they're a little bit hard to see, but that is a help panel too. So that'll give you a little bit more detail if you are struggling to move through this initially. But it just takes a little bit of practice to move through and playing with this type of tool, and you'll get the hang of it in no time. I'd like to wrap up this final section on iTree Design by providing you with some ideas of how you might be able to utilize iTree Design in your community. One of the great things about this tool is that it really allows you to have a conversation about tree benefits with audiences such as homeowners or school groups, educators. And it's information that you can easily share with them and demonstrate. So you can do projects like how to promote tree energy effects by just simply doing a quick demonstration with iTree Design. Or you can use it to promote tree preservation. Oftentimes folks don't understand or realize the benefits that mature trees provide to communities. And iTree Design can be used to help illustrate those values. Another great way is using it in community events such as Arbor Day celebrations. So many communities are interested in promoting Arbor Day events, and iTree Design can easily be used to create tree tags to help promote those events, to help illustrate the value of those trees to decision makers, and also to engage the local media in cases too. And also for modeling tree planting projects. So in the demonstration that I showed you, I did a scenario around a house, but you can certainly do a scenario in an open field and just not select the energy effect option and show how trees can provide benefits over time. Oftentimes we don't realize the value of trees that were lost. So if you lose a large elm or an ash tree, sometimes people think that just replacing that with another tree is the same, but really you are losing a tremendous amount of benefits when you lose some of those mature trees. And so design here again can be used to show those values and compare how a small tree differs from a large tree. So I'll show you a couple examples of how design may be used, and hopefully it'll give you some new ideas to implement it in your community. I demonstrated the use of iTree Design on a single house in the walkthrough, but it can really be used to show neighborhood tree benefits also. So for example, in a community such as this one where some of the large American elms are starting to disappear because of Dutch elm disease, you can create a scenario showing all the homes along a block and all the trees, just to kind of give homeowners an idea of how these trees provide benefits, not only to the homes that they're in front of, but also to the homes adjacent and in some cases across the street. So we can see here some of these large American elms on that street really provide benefits to multiple parcels. Another way I use design is to demonstrate the difference between planting small and large trees. Many communities and homeowners select to plant smaller trees instead of larger trees. And there's nothing wrong with smaller trees, but there is a difference in the benefits that will be received over time. And so design is one of those tools that can be used to illustrate that. So in this example, I placed an American plum and a northern red oak just to show those differences in time. And I use the growth modeler to show the canopy, and then we can look at the benefits over time. So for example, the American plum here providing $455 in over 60 years, compared with almost 4 times or over 4 times the benefits that's provided by that oak. iTree Design can also be a very helpful tool if there are organizations in your community who are promoting tree planting. So just providing this additional information to show someone who's considering planting a tree on their property that there are some benefits that you are going to receive over time may be just one of the ways that might help them consider to plant trees on private property. As I mentioned, it is very easy to do tree planting scenarios in design. And this is one of those things too, if a community or an organization was interested in trying to obtain grant funds, sometimes using iTree Design to show that you're not just planting trees, but you're planting trees for these ecosystem services may also help strengthen that application. And this is just a medium planting, showing how easy it is just to put 8 trees into design and to run those benefits, and then to see what those benefits are going to provide over time. And at planting, it's fairly minimal in terms of 2-inch diameter trees, but over the course of time, those trees will provide some substantial benefits. And so it can also be used for larger scale projects. This is a reclamation project here where an organization actually had some plans drawn up, and so we were able just to use some of the species that they had from the planting list and to run that through design so that we can get some rough ecosystem service estimates of what those trees might provide if that project were to go forward. And these were just some of the benefits that might be received if that project were to ever be implemented. Promoting energy savings is another great way of using iTree Design. And this is an example of the Arbor Day Foundation's program, Energy Savings Trees, which they have in partnership with a number of utilities and also Davey Tree. And the idea behind this is that homeowners use iTree Design to place a tree around their house, and a local utility will then work with them, pay for a tree to be delivered, and they agree to plant it in a strategic location to promote energy efficiency. So it's a great way of engaging the community and also promoting tree planting. So this can also be replicated on a local scale and individual scale, although there aren't currently any utilities that are engaged in this program in Wisconsin at this time. Although the Energy Savings Trees program is fairly new, it has been fairly successful so far. There have been a fairly substantial amount of trees that have been distributed to homeowners, and the fact that they are now engaging these homeowners. So these are trees that are being planted on private property too. And another easy way to take advantage of iTree Design in your community is simply by providing a web link to folks who might be interested in learning more about trees and tree benefits. And here's an example of a nursery who just integrated a link on their website that allows somebody who's interested in trees to then use iTree Design. So this might be something that could help promote their business and also help promote tree planting in their community. And this is a great example of how some of the folks out in Virginia, led by Mary Van Dyke, have integrated iTree Design in middle school education. So they use it coupled with some outdoor activities and then use design to learn more about the benefits that those trees around their school and around their neighborhood are providing. So it's a fantastic way of engaging kids and showing them and teaching them about tree benefits. They then share this information with their friends and their family, and it's just a fantastic use of this tool, which helps promote trees and the benefits of trees in the community. So there certainly are a number of ways that this tool can be used effectively. Hopefully this will give you some ideas to implement it in your own community. And if you do come up with any new ideas, we certainly would appreciate hearing about those so that we can share it with other communities.